You're watching Marketing Matters with Colin Carrasquillo, exclusively on CBT News.
Hey there, Colin Carrasquillo here with Marketing Matters. Proud to be partnered with CBT News to bring you the latest and greatest in the automotive industry and, of course, tell you why your marketing matters. Now, let's dig into a topic which I am very, very passionate about. Some may say, or I'll say, that I will die on this hill when I make this statement. Now, this statement is about unlocking local success, leveraging tier 1 and tier 2 advertising, right? So your OEM advertising on a national level and then on a regional level, and your tier 3 advertising for your own dealership growth, okay? So in automotive marketing, we're all familiar with tier 1 and tier 2 advertising. Of course, tier 1 advertising are those national commercials that cost millions of dollars to produce, right? Could be Ford or Toyota or Jeep putting out these incredible commercials that are viewed on platforms nationally, right? You then have tier 2 regional advertising or advertising that could be for a group of dealers. And this is more targeted to a local market. Perhaps it's for a specific initiative, meaning focusing on specific types of inventory at a dealership, but most likely that tier 1 and tier 2 regional advertising is linked in some way, shape, or form. There's always an agenda, right? And from there, you say, well, where does the dealer, meaning me, on a tier 3 level fit into that, okay? Tier 1 and tier 2 ads are marketing that need to create intent and awareness around a brand. Your tier 3 marketing needs to capture the intent. So the statement I'm going to make, which I will die on this hill talking about, is don't be afraid to say no when OEMs come asking to do heavy up campaigns or 1-to-1 campaigns or 2-to-1 campaigns, whatever it may be, when their initiative is to focus on a specific make or model of vehicle. You're spending money, and a lot of these initiatives, I should clarify, are higher funnel initiatives. A lot of these initiatives are for OTT, over-the-top television, or connected television. A lot of these initiatives are for lead gate portals on your website and identifying X amount of shoppers in your market and then sending out email drip marketing to them. These initiatives, this money which you should be spending on a tier 3 level, meaning capturing the intent that these tier 1 and tier 2 ads are creating, should be utilized to help your dealership's cause, not necessarily the OEM's cause. I'll give you an example. Recently, I was approached by one of the OEMs that we represent, and this OEM said, hey, we have an initiative. It's a heavy up on a specific make and model of vehicles that we represent. You guys can do the math. We have 14 stores, 12 brands. You can figure it out. But the fact of the matter is, this initiative focusing on this specific make and model of vehicle was a OTT initiative, so over-the-top television where people would be streaming. And it would be a commercial for this vehicle. And all we would receive as the dealer is an end plate at the name of the commercial. We had no control over the offer. It was a national offer. We had no control over the vendor partner that we got to choose. Essentially, it was, here's the vendor partner. This is a test, all for one or one voice campaign. And from there, it was either you spend the money to participate or you don't participate. And that's a tough decision to make, right? Especially as a marketing manager at a dealer group and a dealer owner who loves to do everything by the book. And of course, work with the OEMs, right? That's our job here, is to ensure that we have a great relationship with the OEMs that we represent. But in that case, from a marketing perspective, I had to have a conversation where what benefit would that really give us on the tier 3 side of things at Nielsen? I've had experiences in the past where we spent these monies, right, for a handful of our brands. And guess what? We didn't sell more cars. We didn't get more opportunities. Maybe we didn't have the correct inventory mix. I think that that's something that as marketers, we always need to be aware of and challenge. If an OEM has an initiative, well, do you even have the inventory on the ground that would support that? And sometimes you may, sometimes you don't, right? But the answer is here. It's lying underneath you or outside or wherever you may be working from and on your lot, you can see, what inventory you have. But if the initiative's to sell X, Y, and Z model and you don't have it, well, they most likely came up with that initiative because there is another dealer in the market or in your region who has all that inventory. So it wouldn't behoove you to participate in those initiatives. Why? You're just creating more awareness for the brand, and that dealer probably gets to capitalize upon those opportunities because they have more of the vehicles. So it's always you'd have to be very astute as a marketer to say what makes sense and what doesn't. I think a lot of the wasted spend and downfall from a marketing perspective or side of things is when dealers ultimately agree to do these heavy ups just for the sake of doing the heavy up and thinking that it's going to get more opportunities for sales. And I could be wrong. Listen, I could be wrong. I come on here bearing my heart to you all. But, for me, what we've seen is that you don't get more opportunities for sale. You spend more money. The cost per leads usually are inflated or increased. And really the best way to use that tier 3 or money, which you would normally dedicate then to a heavy up campaign, would be on a tier 3 level. So if OEMs are promoting that you have to do a heavy up campaign, 1-to-1 campaign, 2-to-1 campaign. Of course, this will vary across all of the OEMs that are out there, and the goals may vary by dealership, right? This is just something that I would implore you to think about. If there's going to be more intent created because there's more monies in the market on a tier 1 and tier 2 level, would you rather pile on top of that just to create more intent? And your answer could be yes, I want to create more intent. Or would you rather use the monies that you were going to allocate towards creating more intent to capturing intent? That's the school of thought that I'm in. I'd rather all of you capture the intent. So instead of spending the $1,500, $2,500, $3,500 on the heavy up, put it into your search campaigns, focus on the vehicles that you have on the ground that also may be part of those heavy up campaigns so that you can capture the intent that is generated by the tier 1 and tier 2 regional advertising. There's a lot of importance, of course, to those advertising initiatives. We have some OEMs who have very weak tier 1 and tier 2 strategies, and it's left on to the dealer to create the intent and awareness around the brand. It's very tough to do. That is not necessarily a business model that is sustainable. You cannot spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to create brand awareness or intent in a market when there is nothing to capture, right? Or you just won't see that return on your investment. When you look at it from an operations perspective, then that's just not a smart way to operate. You can't spend money without making money and expect to keep the lights on, right, at the dealership. So with that, I want to boil it down into 3 key takeaways. The first takeaway, right, when these are happening, these tier 1, tier 2 initiatives, which are always ongoing, but then an OEM may approach you for a heavy up campaign. Use that as an opportunity to own your local search landscape, okay? Leverage what's being done in the tier 1 and tier 2 side of things and own your local search landscape. So invest more monies into your PPC campaigns, perhaps build out or polish up your landing pages for SEO purposes that may be relevant to those campaigns, right? Ensuring that you have all the proper schema and content and you're updating that content, so on and so forth. This will live on in perpetuity, but when people are then searching for the product because they see more of that as far as what's out there on tier 1 and tier 2, this will give you the opportunity to get in front of those consumers, right? You can be way more aggressive and your buck will go much further when you're going to invest this money on owning the local search landscape versus spending it on what we call mid-funnel to higher funnel initiative when you're piggybacking off of the tier 2 heavy up campaigns, okay? So when a customer hears about these cars on a commercial or TV, their next instinct is definitely to go to a search engine and look for that, right? So let's use an example. A customer sees a commercial for a Ram truck. At the end of it, there's a dealer nameplate. Okay, big whoop. The consumer is going to remember Ram truck, Ram truck, Ram truck, Ram truck. They may not even remember the lease offer, but then what they're going to do is they're going to go and they're going to say Ram truck deals near me, or Ram lease offers near me, or Ram dealer near me. Okay. If you're spending smart, efficiently on a budget, and you didn't want to partake in the tier 2 initiative because you are a similar school of thought to me, which is I want to capture the local search, that's where you're going to heavy up your money, is on those types of queries and those types of searches so that your dealer will populate and ultimately will capture the intent. That's why you're also going to fine tune your SEO content so you can not only just capture paid opportunities, but of course have organic opportunities and maybe even populate in AIOs. That's the most important thing, is show up where potential buyers are. Don't partake in something that will create potential buyers. Show up where they already are. Let the OEM do the heavy lifting and heavy work. Make your dollar go the furthest at the dealership level. Key takeaway number 2, okay? When people engage with your paid avenues or your organic listings and now on your websites and they're shopping your inventory, hey, they might convert right there, okay? That would be phenomenal, best case scenario. But if they don't, you now have all of this data, right, that you've collected, your first party data, where you could retarget these consumers, okay? Once again, instead of investing the monies on a tier 2 initiative, you can invest the monies in search, low funnel, high intent, capture the intent, social perhaps, right? Or on retargeting avenues. Now you can do this, of course, through Google. You could do this through Facebook, so on and so forth. It's just a way to get people who have shown the intent that you've captured back onto your property to ultimately convert. It's a very, very powerful, what I'll call 1-2 punch. Okay. And the last thing, just to really focus on SEO, because this will live in perpetuity. This will live far beyond the heavy up campaigns. That content, the seamless content that you're going to create, right? Or the content that's authoritative content, that's content that people can keep going back to, right? Is going to give you the ability to capture people far and beyond when the heavy up campaign is running, okay, on a tier 2 or even tier 1 level. It will allow you to establish yourself once again as the authority. Why? You spent the money smart, you spent the money efficiently, you captured local search, you've driven people to your site, you're retargeting people to the site. Now you're getting people back to the site, right? And they're reading this excellent SEO content, giving them the ability to shop inventory, to convert, so on and so forth. This is how you properly leverage the whole dynamic between tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 advertising. Now, once again, I will say this. There are different strokes for different folks, and different dealers may have different philosophies, and that's perfectly fine. There is no philosophy that is wrong. The philosophy that is wrong is one that is not acted upon. If you just sit there and do nothing and expect that the situation will change, then you are in the wrong. However, if you are actively trying to go out there and grow your business and understand tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 initiatives, how they can work together, whether or not it's appropriate for you to participate in a tier 2 initiative or not, then that is up to you. However, these are helpful recommendations that have made us more efficient on the Nielsen side of things, capture more intent, gather more interest from our consumers. And it's when we started being smarter with our spends, not necessarily putting on top of or piling on top of these initiatives, but piggybacking off of, giving us the ability to capture what's being created from that tier 2 regional level on the tier 3 dealership level. And then in employing the tactics that I had talked about, right? Retargeting, putting better content on our web pages, so on and so forth. So when all is said and done, I would implore you to understand that hierarchy, tier 1 down to tier 3. I would implore you to have a pulse on what the OEM is promoting in the market, what their agenda is, right? And then once again, look into your own business goals, your goals as a dealer, your goals as a marketer. If they align with what is happening at tier 2, then pile on top or piggyback off of. If they do not, it is our jobs to be nimble and agile and smart with our monies and make decisions on the tier 3 side of things that may enable us to capture intent created in a new fashion way, dynamic, perhaps to a new model that might not be included in those campaigns, so on and so forth. But there's always a way to do it. There's always a strategy to do it, but it has to align with your own business goals. So understand the hierarchy, make the decisions that make sense for you, pile on if it makes sense, piggyback off of if it doesn't, right? And go from there. Thank you. I think with these tips and tricks, you'll be able to better leverage tier 1 and tier 2 spending, not just spend for the sake of spending or because an OEM asks you to, and instead use that monies to get more bang for buck for your dealership. Thanks for joining me on this another installment, of Marketing Matters. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for watching Marketing Matters with Colin Carrasquillo, exclusively on CBT News.